You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, General Hospital fans, we have got Drew Cain furious now that he knows Curtis Ashford was the one who told Willow about his fling with Nina that blew up the wedding. But Drew is not going to fly off the handle and lash out right now. Nope. He is going to serve ice cold revenge on Curtis when the time is right and get the ultimate payback. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and we're going to talk about just how Drew is going to target Curtis both professionally and personally, and possibly taking out friends and family along the way as collateral damage. And hey, if you are not following us, please click subscribe. So after Elizabeth accidentally revealed to Drew that it was Curtis who blabbed, we saw Congressman Cutthroat making a very sneaky move. So Drew approached Curtis over at the Metrocourt pool and said he wanted to call a truce. Drew offered and Curtis agreed, and he told the congressman that he won't be the one to break the truce. Then Drew went back over to his lawyer, Martin Gray, and said that none of that was real, the truce with Curtis. Instead, Drew said he was playing a long game. So let's talk about that long game. It started with his lawyer. Martin said, even though Drew doesn't like Curtis, his aunt Stella is an angel. And then Martin told Drew about Stella helping him with his insurance problem. If you remember, Martin hurt his back at the whole ketamine Tracy Quartermain press conference, and Martin wound up blaming Tracy, but bottom line, his back was really hurt, and Stella finagled the insurance papers so that his back pain wouldn't be treated as a pre-existing condition. And if you recall, Martin's pretty broke because of back alimony to all his ex-wives, so he couldn't afford to pay out of pocket. But when he thanked Stella at General Hospital, you know, she kind of told Martin, keep your voice down because we could both get in trouble. So Martin told Drew about all that and how Stella helped him. And you could see that Congressman Drew got a look on his face. His wheels were turning because Martin just gave Drew some ammunition to use against Curtis. He can report Stella or have someone else do it for insurance fraud, and that would really hurt Curtis. So that's one way to strike. Second, I think Drew may consider turning Portia over to the cops. She tampered with Heather Weber's test results. That right there is enough to yank Portia's medical license and send her to prison for evidence tampering. The ketamine case is a little more problematic for Drew to prove at this point against Portia because Drew already framed Tracy for that, but that kind of got messed up at the press conference, and Cody claimed the ketamine was his, but that doesn't necessarily mean that was the ketamine that Drew was given. So he could still pull this out. He could go after Portia for that in another way. Drew could bring back Brad to testify that Portia was blackmailing him after he found out she altered Heather's test, and, you know, back and forth, and then she made him steal the ketamine. And since Drew found Jacinda and paid her off to keep her away from Curtis, that means that he can probably find Jacinda again, and Drew could bribe her. If he paid Jacinda the prostitute enough, she might come back to Port Charles and say that Portia gave her the ketamine and that Nina gave her the cash, and it was all a big setup to ruin Drew. Because honestly, that's the truth of the matter. So he could pay Jacinda to simply tell the truth. And if Drew targets Portia, that would also devastate Curtis. So another part of Drew's revenge served cold plan could be him targeting Curtis and the company he runs, Aurora Media. And that way the attacks are both personal and professionals. You know, Drew originally founded Aurora Media with Sam McCall. He knows it inside out. If I recall, they bought from Julian and then turned it into this. There was a backstory to it, but it was Drew and Sam Sam's company. So Drew may be able to sabotage the company and make problems for Curtis, undermine him as CEO, even though Curtis does have a multi-year contract. Being in Congress, Drew can do a lot of shady stuff behind the scenes that could impact Curtis's business. And of course, Drew is still making money from Aurora, but he's also got ELQ stock. And even if Aurora went under, Curtis might be financially crushed, but Drew would probably come out of it just fine. I doubt it would get that far, but still, yeah, he may target Curtis as CEO of Aurora. And speaking of Drew targeting Curtis professionally and personally, that also makes Michael Corinthos a top target because Curtis and Michael are allies and they're friends. And if Drew's attacking Aurora, then Curtis might bring Michael back in to help defend the company since he's involved in it as well. But that might just make things easier for Drew, who already wants to take Michael down so Willow can get her kids back. If Drew can get Willow's kids away from Michael and back in her hands, there's a chance Drew might be able to actually win back Willow. So Drew may find a way to carry out his original plan to frame Michael as an opioid addict so he loses custody of the kids, and that would also put a taint on Aurora since Michael's involved there, and that would also mean that when Drew's coming at Curtis, if he's attacking Aurora, then Michael might not be available to help with that. And if Drew can set up Portia to say that she's somehow covering for Michael, then this could be a really effective scheme to topple several people at once. And finally, you hate to think about this, but Drew might also target Trina to hurt her dad, Curtis. Since her ex-boyfriend Kai is close to Drew, working as an intern, Kai might be the perfect person to use to slap at Trina for revenge. Drew might, set up Kai with some new girl, some hottie to make Trina jealous. It could be somebody from the political arena or a famous model. Obviously, as a politician, Drew's got contacts. Even though Kai misses Trina, Drew might be able to convince him that going out with a new girl could make Trina jealous and bring her back around. So Drew might be able to convince Kai to go for it. And seeing her ex-boyfriend out with a beautiful young woman might upset Trina, and anything that upsets her will obviously upset Curtis and Portia. And we know Drew wants to rip apart Curtis's life since he feels like that's what Curtis did to Drew. So we know that Drew had no problem saying awful things where Wiley could hear to upset the kid and make Michael look bad. So yeah, Drew's got no problem using kids to make his point. He used a little kid, so a young woman like Trina, yeah, she better watch her back because Drew might put a knife in it aiming for her dad. And if he gets the chance, Drew might even target Curtis's father, Marshall, next time he's back in Port Charles. We'll see how it plays out, but that quote, revenge is a dish best served cold, and that's what Drew wants to do, serve icy cold payback on Curtis. I don't know about you guys. I'm definitely not Team Drew on this. I am Team Curtis.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.